Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have a Jaeger LeCoultre automatic. You can see the watch is in a bad state. It's missing the second hand and it looks pretty rough. We're going to remove this strap there, which is not really nice. And let's see if the watch is running well or no. So I put it on a time grapher. You see the amplitude is around 262 degrees and is gaining 40 seconds per day. It's not that bad compared to the state of the watch, which is pretty poor to be fair. So what we're going to do, we are going to fully disassemble the watch. We are going to give it a proper clean. We're going to try to restore the case as well a bit on this one and see what we can get at the end for the result. So first, we need to open the case back on the watch. And for this, I use my opening tool. I'm just going to clamp the watch between the two white parts, and there I'm adjusting the two teeth, you see, like the width, and I can unscrew the case back. So that's a safe way, especially if it's really tight. You can open it with like a rubber ball or something else. You can see there it's not coming, it's just not tight enough. This one was quite tight, yeah. So you go, I just tied a bit more. Still don't move, that's it, it's coming, perfect. I don't really like this type of case back with this type of opening. I prefer to have like a groove or something like this kind of hexagonal shape. It's really hard to open. See a lot of scratches on a back as well. See if we can address that. And let's see what we can find inside. Wow, that's quite nice, yeah. So we have a Jaeger LeCoultre, obviously, like a caliber, which is an in-house caliber from Jaeger LeCoultre. This is a case back as well with the LeCoultre company Switzerland written on it. And you see this is an automatic system. It's a hammer automatic system, which is like kind of old system if you want. And you can see when I'm turning the hammer, we can see the wheels moving just ever so slightly. And that's how you wind the watch. And you can see it's only moving in one direction. So this is not the best efficient way of rewinding a watch, automatic winder. You see now the modern one with the big rotor in the middle, which turns 360 degrees. You can wind the watch in both direction. But this one, you can, or you already you don't have, which is a hammer system, is hitting again this spring on the side. It doesn't rotate 360 degrees, and it can wind only the mainspring in one direction when it's going in one direction, not the other one. So if you have like now the rotor is like twice the efficiency of the system because it can wind when it's turning in both direction. You can see there the second end was loose, but it's weird that it's loose. We see if it's I think it's not the correct size, and it doesn't look like it's the original one as well. You see the color, it looks a bit weird. The dial is a bit dirty. I'm just putting back in order to adjust the hand. So we're just going to pull on it just to set the time. Just going to align the hands to midnight. So like that it's easier to remove them. We're just using my lever there just to lift the hands, the two hands. That's it. Perfect. The dial as well, we see if we can clean it a bit. It's always very difficult to restore a dial. Like this is a very, very specific job, and not a lot of people can restore dials actually, or the proper way. So we see if we can clean it. I'm just trying to loosen up the dial fee screw, but one is really tight. I could not get it. So I managed to do it a bit later on, but yeah, it was really tight. And actually the dial was glued on the case. We will see that a bit later. Okay, so we start the disassembly by removing the automatic system first. So there is this bridge here, which, yeah, there we go. You can see there's a screw on it, and we can remove the parts that's used to wind the mechanism. Bit of tension there. I cannot grab this part. There we go, that's it. Just moving this hammer, if you want, this rotor. The Jaeger LeCoultre on it. And now I can release the power by just holding the click, and the crown between my fingers. I remove the power, and when the power is out, it's safe to disassemble the movement. So always start by removing the balance assembly, which is obviously one of the most delicate parts, especially with the hairspring, one of the most delicate parts of the movement. So you don't want to damage it. So the best way is to remove it first. And you can see there P812. That's a caliber number from Jaeger LeCoultre. So you can go online and find information as well on this caliber. And that's always very important, because you see when if you need to find a part, a replacement or something like that, you always need to refer back to the caliber number. And most of the time, not always, but it's written like under the balance assembly, or sometime on one of the bridge, you will find the caliber number. So this one, like I said, is 812 from Jaeger LeCoultre. Okay, we carry on the disassembling there. The screw doesn't want to come. It's not fully unscrewed yet. That's it. Moving the ratchet wheel, checking if there is any play. Yeah, it looks like there is a bit of play, but the worst, yeah, it looks like there is a lot of handshake moving up and down, like the mainspring barrel. Look how much it moves up and down. That's a lot of handshake. So we need to address that. We'll see if we can address this issue a bit later on when we put it back together. Okay, we have the crown wheel now with these two little screws. Oh, this one doesn't want to come. No, we get it back a bit later. Come on. Yeah, that's it. They are so small, these screws. Always, like when you have two screws on a crown wheel, they are very small. Maybe see a bit of wear, some dried up grease, oil that need to be cleaned. So that's that's the purpose as well of disassembling a watch. We'll disassemble everything. Everything we go through a cleaning machine a bit later on to remove dirt, dried up oil, grease, to make sure the watch will run as good as possible when we put it back together. And obviously, we put some brand new oil and grease. And I don't know when this watch was serviced for the last time. Obviously, the oil and grease as well did a lot of improvement, if you want, in the industry. The oil and grease that's used now are much better than the one they were using before. Okay, this wheel is a bit stuck, so see if I can get the escape, yeah. But the rest of the wheels from the train are very tight to remove. That's not normal. Yeah, this one, it looks like it's fully stuck, yeah. Oh, oh no, I think something, oh, the pivot is broken. Look at the pivot on the wheel. I don't know, it was like stuck inside. That was strange. So I need to find, you see, like there is no pivot on the top. So I need to find a replacement for this one. But it's strange, like it was broken like straight off, yeah. It's weird. So we'll have to find a replacement for this part. And we carry on the disassembly, removing the mainspring barrel bridge. That's the one you remember where there's a lot of play underneath. There we go. And now the barrel assembly that we will disassemble a bit later. Okay, so now we are going to move on the dial side and going to start removing the screw from the setting lever spring. And we have a keyless work there, which is pretty standard, like nothing really special on this keyless work. Going to remove the yoke spring. Oh, did not go very far, just a little jump. The yoke and minute wheel and intermediate wheel and the last few parts. And we see the stem actually is pretty rusted. So you see at the end there? So we'll change that. We put a new stem as well at the end, and we see how to adjust the stem at the end of the video. Okay, and look at that. I was talking about it. That's the glue that was holding, because one of the dial fit screw is actually broken. It's inside the plate there. So I remove the dried up glue, and we're gonna clean all of that. I'm just taking the jewels there with a piece of wood again to remove the dried up oil or grease, make sure everything is as clean as possible. And gonna place back the balance assembly on the mechanism. That's a safe place to keep it during cleaning. Just press it in position fully. There we go. And when it is, just secure it with the screw. And for sure, it will not get damaged because this part is so sensible. You need to be really careful when you handle the balance assembly. So for sure, we not get damaged during cleaning. I'm just going to remove the jewels as well in the balance assembly. So for that, I need to open this spring there on top to get access to the jewels. And these jewels will be cleaned as well separately in a machine, just to make sure. Again, we remove any dried up oil in the jewels. We're just turning this spring there to release them. I'm just grabbing them with a bit of Rodico is easier. Okay, remember this part was part of the automatic winding system. Again, just going to remove and disassemble all the parts in order to clean them the best way we can separately. And yes, these screws are really, really small as well. Look at my fingers compared to the size of these screws, yeah. They are so small. Okay. And you see there, look at it looks like almost, I don't know if it's some dried up grease or rust. So just use a bit of pegwood to loosen up the biggest part of it. And everything will be clean, like I said, in the machine. It looks like rust, or I'm not sure actually. Disc there, removing. Again, we pegged all the jewels from the different bridges. The mainspring barrel that we're going to disassemble as well, get access, and oof, that's dirty. It's automatic system, so this means if there is an automatic system, most of the time you use a graphite grease. That's why you have this black grease inside. And yeah, that need to be clean. So we're gonna take out the spring, put it into, we put it later as well into the basket for the cleaning machine. Okay, talking about it, I'm just placing all the parts in these baskets, and then we go through the cleaning cycles of my Elma Vintage cleaning machine. That's it. They're nice and secure inside this basket, and they will go through the cleaning. While the parts are cleaning, I would like to use the opportunity to tell you that I have a Patreon page. So if you want to support me, support the channel, that will help me a lot to buy some material and to put better content for you guys. Yeah, if you want to join, you will find a link down in the description of the video. And I would like to thank my existing patrons. So Shelby, Jan, Ruud, Christian, Corne, Alan, Swami, David, Ted, Tony, Michael, Steven, John, Tim, and Gregory. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting me. And if you want to join, you will get access to the video without any commercial, and as well you will get access to the video earlier than on YouTube. So you can go there and subscribe and find a plan that suits you. And thanks in advance for your support. Okay, so now the parts are clean, rinsed, and dry, so we can start the reassembly. First, we are gonna treat the parts in Epilam, just to make sure we'll have a better surface retention when we're gonna put some oil later on these parts. Just gonna put them in the solution for a couple of seconds, for a few seconds. When it's done, we're gonna obviously dry them. And after, what I like to do is always oil the jewels from the balance assembly. We go drying the parts. We're gonna clean the pivot from the escape and the pallet fork to remove the pinion on the pivot point there, because we don't really need it at this point. And there I'm dropping a drop of oil of 9010 oil in the middle and putting the chaton back on top. And the oil, basically, the drop of oil is trapped in between these two parts. And that's where the balance stuff from the balance assembly will come through and will be oil throughout the life of the watch. Okay, just doing the other side now. And when it's done, we're placing them back on the balance assembly. We do the reverse process by putting back the jewels and closing the spring on top of it. And again, we put it in a groove, and we are going to turn the spring to lock it into position. There we go. Just gonna do the same thing, exact same thing on the other side. Placing the spring, and by rotating it, it will lock in position. Okay, so now we're gonna rewind the mainspring. Remember, that was very black and dirty. Look how clean it is right now after going through the cleaning process. So this is automatic, so that's why you have a strain shape at the end, like a kind of a V shape. So this, you need to bend it just to put it. It's not easy to do. Just need to stop at the right time and bend it just ever so slightly to put it through the opening there and finish to wind the mainspring in this Bergeron winder. When it's done, do a couple of turn in the other direction to release the tension, and we should be able to take out the handle. Just use a pair of tweezers there to hold the mainspring in place, and the mainspring is winded. Just putting a couple of told you it's an automatic system, so the mainspring will slide all the time on a barrel there wall. So I just put a few drops of graphite grease and a bit of mainspring, so it's some 8200 grease on a bottom there, and just putting the mainspring that we just rewind back in place. And there we go. Now we're putting the barrel arbor after oiling the bottom. Now we're going to oil the top and just placing the lid back. And that's it. We have the barrel assembly, sorry, which is fully assembled. Just closing it with this little tool by putting tiny bit of pressure on top and clicking the cover back in place. Okay, so now we can start the reassembly by putting the main barrel assembly, the mainspring, sorry, barrel assembly that we just put. And you remember when we disassembled, it was quite a lot of play, especially in shake. So that's when it moved up and down like this. That's a bit too much. So I'm just going to press it just ever so slightly to bend it a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, just to reduce its movement up and down. I didn't want to reduce it too much, but just a tiny bit because I think it was a bit too high. So yeah, that's it. I just reduce it a bit, just putting the screw there. We are going to tighten the bridge back in place and see. Yeah, there is some movement, but less. So we'll leave it like this, and we see if the amplitude is too low, because obviously this movement can cause some friction between parts. And if there is friction between the parts, but your amplitude will be ruined, and accuracy of your watch as well will be damaged. So that's why you don't want to have too much play between parts, because you will run the risk that they touch each other. Okay, placing back now the train of wheel, and you remember it was one wheel, not this one, the next one with the pivot that was broken. So I managed to find a new one. Here we go. This is the one, this one with the bottom pivot that was broken. So I find a new one, and the last one, the center wheel, just putting a drop of oil underneath, and we can place it, put it back in place. Okay, so now that's it in place. We're just going to put this setting lever screw, and we're going to put this big bridge on top, which is need to be aligned with all the pivot point for all the different wheels that we just put back in place. So I'm gently pressing there. And what I like to do as well, I like to gently do some tapping, like on the movement holder, just to make the wheel move ever so slightly until they found the right position. And you see that now I'm just tapping, and you see it move. Just tap, 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 very, very small. And look at it. Oh, it's in place now. All the wheels are aligned and then in their pivot point. So when it does, I can put the screws, and everything will stay in place after securing the bridge with the screws. Just checking, and you see everything is turning perfect. So I can put the second screw for this bridge, for the train of wheel bridge, and we are done. Okay, we are gonna put now the crown wheel. Just greasing, you see a lot of wear on the plate. So I just put a drop of oil there just to make sure there is not too much friction between the crown wheel and the main plate. Putting back, aligning the hole there, and can put the screws. Small screw there. Okay. Ratchet wheel with the square hole. I need to be aligned. Just using like a pair of plastic tool there just to align it in position. There we go. It's aligned with the click as well. So I can secure it with the, which is normally quite a big screw for a watchmaker, which is nice to, after you work with very small ones, it's nice to have a big screw like this. Yeah. Okay, everything is turning. Just going to move to the dial side now. And we're gonna assemble the keyless work. First by greasing, you see, because this is part see a lot of frictions. So greasing the different part there, putting the winding stem through the clutch and the winding pinion. Setting lever that need to be screwed from the other side, which is always tricky to do. Okay. And now the next step, we're gonna put the yoke, but first I like to grease all the different points. We're gonna put the wheel, we're gonna put the yoke and everything. So like that is done. That's a yoke coming through the clutch in the middle. So you see me using like this blue grease, which is a high friction grease. That's for the different points that see a lot of friction and a lot of wear. So you want to use a grease that has a high viscosity because the oil obviously that you use have a lower viscosity. So yeah, generally on a watch, you will use 4, 5, 6 sometimes different type of oil or grease on the movement. Obviously, you will have special one like what we use, for example, on the mainspring. It's special. We're going to use one as well on the pallet fork to use the pallet fork stones. It's a bit special. So yeah, you use like different oil, different grease for different application, and they all have like different properties, like lower friction, higher friction, viscosity for example, it's more for the viscosity. Sorry, a lower or higher viscosity depending on the friction and depending on the speeds as well of the parts, the speed between the parts. So yeah, you use between four to six greases depending on a movement. And yeah, so you can find a lot of information online as well, or which oil you need to use on which pivot point. Like for example, what I'm doing now, which different spot on your movement. Okay, so I'm oiling all the pivot point there from the train of wheel. Go, that's the last one. So now I can put the pallet fork in position with the pallet fork cocks that go on top of it. Perfect. And normally now, if I wind the watch a bit, we should see the pallet fork clicking. And we are going to put the balance assembly and see if the watch want to start. Just gently putting back in position. Oh, yeah, perfect. It started straight away. And this balance actually is, the bridge is quite hard to put in place. So I need to align it and gently pushing back both sides to go down bit by bit. And what it does, just putting the screw and everything is in place. Okay, I just do a quick clean on the dial. For this, I just use like a cotton swab and a lighter fluid, so which is very light. So I did a quick clean. Obviously, you cannot get it like perfect. Like I said, it's very hard. You need to repaint, and that's a proper job to do it. It's like a job on its own. But yeah, I just did a quick clean on the dial, and actually, it looks better. But as well, I don't want the dial to look like brand new or and run the risk as well of damaging it. Obviously, the watch has a character, and I like watch with history, so that's why I don't like to over restore a watch. And this one, yeah, just give a quick clean on the dial. So I did not have the broken feet there. It was stuck inside. I couldn't remove it. So a technique as well. I'm just going to use these small dots, which are made on purpose to glue the dial in position. So is one feet is on. So I'm going to locate it with one feet, and the other one will be held by this small discs that I just put. It will stick to the dial between the dial and the main plate. So it will not move anymore. Okay, just putting now the hand. So our hand first, just did a gentle polish as well on the hand. Go, just put it fully in position. Just going to align it to midnight. Just put the minute hand as well. Again, align to midnight. And by doing this, we should have the proper alignment between the hands. So let's see at 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 and 12. That's perfect. The alignment is good. Yeah, just changed. I just put a new sub-second hand because one it was not the right size and the color was wrong. So just found this one, which is fitting quite nice for this watch I found. So there we go, just pressing it in place. So now we're gonna focus on the case. Just first, the crystal, probably gonna change and put a new one. And I'm going to repolish a case. You see it's a satin finish, I mean a brush finish on the side. So we're gonna do the same. And a polish on the top. There is some deep scratches, so that I will not be able to remove them. But the rest should be fine. We'll do the case back as well. It's quite dirty, so we're gonna as well put it in ultrasonic machine first. But first I need to remove the crown tube with this tool. Just going to press and the crown tube is coming out. You need to remove the crown tube because it's easier as well when you polish a case on the side. You don't want to have the crown tube coming out. Just to clean, like I said, in an ultrasonic machine. See the dirt coming out. And when it's clean, we can start the polishing. So we do it in two stages, sorry. First one, I will do a rough pass to remove all the scratches. So I start with the case back by rotating it slightly. We will do as well a grain finish on the case back in the center. Just do the same thing on the case there, removing all the deep scratches on the lug, on the side, everywhere on the case. And the next step, obviously, when the first step is done, I clean the parts in ultrasonic machine again to remove all the polishing compound. And I will do the last step, which is with a different wheel and a different compound. Now we're going to do the last finish, which is a shiny finish. So we do the same. We're going to do it on the case back, and we're going to do it on the case. So first I do the case. And now I just put back a bit of polish compound on the wheel. And I'm just doing the case again to have a shiny, especially on the top. And this is to do the brush finish on the side. This is a special wheel. And I'm just going to do like both sides there, just to have like a perfect brush side with this wheel. So now it's done. You can see the brush side on the case, contrasting with the mirror finish on top and of the lug and on top of the case. Placing back the crown tube. There we go. And I'm just going to redo like the finish on a case back as well. So for this, I use sandpaper, and I will just go straight up and down to create this line in the center on the flat parts of the case backs. That's how you do it with a sandpaper. Just going to fit a new crystal. So for this, I use my press. So I'm just going to go down on the crystal. The crystal will bend just ever so slightly. So if you want, the diameter of the crystal will become a tiny bit smaller. And when it's small, I can put the case up against it. And when I'm going to release the tension, so now it's inside. And when I'm going to release the tension, the crystal will be inside the case. And you see now, there we go, releasing the tension, and the crystal is in position in the case. And here we go. You see the difference when you put a brand new crystal? It looks lovely. So just place back now the movement and inside the case, and you have these two clamps there that need to be put in position by rotation, go underneath like in a groove, and by just turning it, just need to align where you have the hole for the winding stem there. Perfect. And you see the winding stem as well is rusty. Just putting back in place. We're going to change it a bit later. But first, we need to put the automatic system that we need to reassemble. You remember that we disassemble these wheels which with the little screws. Just placing them back together. Again, oiling and greasing everything. Put the wheel. Put the 3 screws there, which are so small. There we go. One is in position. We need to put now the two other ones. Perfect. And there was a couple of clicks as well for the automatic system. And this one is not easy to put because I need to hold the spring in out of the way. So I will use this tool to keep the spring out of the way. Put the click in place. First, we need to put a drop of oil because that's a rotation point there. We're going to put the screw. And there is a shoulder on the screw where the click is rotating around. There you go, in position. Now I screw it. And after this, I will be able to release the tension of the spring and put it in place against the click there. Perfect. There is another click that go on top there. This one is much easier because there is no spring to hold or anything to hold to put it in place. Just oiling the point. We're going to put like this assembly underneath, like the rotating point. Okay, it's in place. And we just need to put now the hammer from the automatic system. Okay, that's not the correct way. The other stuff need to go above the hammer. Just going to take it out of the way there. Press the hammer fully in position. That's it. Okay, and on this system, because it doesn't rotate like fully, you see that now it come out of the teeth. So I need to find the right position of the between the teeth. So that's always okay. Now I'm fully in position, but you see when I'm going this way, here we go. I need to put it more in this here, and just going to see the movement, see if it operates in the middle of this. Yeah, perfect. You see, it goes from one side to the other side, roughly in the middle. So that's perfect. That's in position there. I can secure with the bridge. Need to align, you see, with the jewels on the top as well. Perfect. And when it does, again, we secure everything with the screws. Just putting the second one. And that's it. The automatic system is fully assembled. Let's check. And we see, yeah, the ratchet wheel there is moving ever so slightly. Every time you move your rust, you see, it will wind. Okay, so I just put a new stem there, but we need to adjust it. So I measure the length, you see, with a caliper that need to be cut. I just put the same length there and mark it with a pen. Cut it with a pair of pliers to the right distance. Just a quick grind there, just to remove. And here we go, you see, perfect length. Just fit it, just tighten it in place with the screw and see if it works when we pull on it. Yes, perfect. It's in position. So here we go. We remove the rusty stem. We have a brand new one now. Okay, one of the last steps, we're going to put a new gasket on the case back. That's just grease there in Molykote, which is a special grease for gasket, just to make sure that it's a bit more watertight. Just pull it around. And I'm just going to use my brand new press from Morotech just to close the case back. Just secure it in this clamp. And with the teeth there, I'm just going to come and close this case back, which I said, it's not my favorite case back. I don't like this shape with the hexagonal shape to close it. But that's it. And here is the result on a time grapher. You see the amplitude is above around 300 degrees, which is really nice. The bit error is just below 1, so that's fine for this type of watch. And the watch is losing 3-4 seconds. I could adjust it to gain it instead of losing 3-4 seconds. But very happy with the result on this watch. And it looks much better. Obviously, the dial is you see some stuff, but yeah, the watch looks much better, much shinier, and look at it on the wrist. It's a nice Jaeger LeCoultre. So I hope you like the video, and I see you next time for my next episode. Bye bye.